I know I've talked before about focusing on looking at the template and finding it in the material and where it exists and how to interpret it, or just taking the template and saying, here's what's there. Let's go ahead and jump on it and employ it and use it to self-heal. And boy, you know what? I have to find the template. The template is what teaches me what to do. But I know going down the road of looking for the template is pretty dry, isn't it? Can we cut to the chase? So, yeah, why don't I do that? I'm going to have to experiment. You guys with me on this? My name is Dan Paulson, and we're trying to figure out what is nested in the material from antiquity. And I'm finding that there is something that, once interpreted in a very specific way, becomes mentally interactive steps that tells us how we came about and what we do to heal ourselves, to disconnect from the things that have got us hurt in life. And of course, one of the most important things that are a part of this process is to be able to exist within this idea of a higher being. It's a mental perspective. It's a place that we can get to. We actually are probably already familiar with it, or we would recognize it if someone told us that's what it was. We often dip in and out of it and don't even realize that's what we're doing. We're going from our higher being to our conscious being. I've got previous videos up on that. I won't repeat all of that. What we want to do here is I'm trying to think of some way to practice getting to the higher being. Think about this. Thousands of years ago, they had no technology. They didn't read or write. There were not books. Things were handwritten. There were a select few that had that, but it was a storytelling culture. They had to have somebody read to them the religious material, Sabbath, the scribes and Pharisees. Here is what it means. Here is how we interpret the scripture. Here is what the scripture is. So we know that in that day and age, they're memorizing this stuff and they're using it in a lot different of a manner than we are. They are also mentally engaged with it potentially all day long. Think of their lives. They don't have cars. There's no electricity. There's no cell phones. There's no network of jobs and fuel and all that kind of stuff. Their life is going to be pretty local. Unless you're in the military off someplace, you're going to be doing something with textiles, with crops, animals, somehow something in the community, making pottery, doing stonework. These are going to be kind of their life is like that. Think about that, and then think about what we are doing with the material and trying to interpret it and trying to live from the higher being. How much time do we give it compared to how much time they had? No choice. It was their life. This was very optimized for their way of life, and it is not optimized for our way of life. If we know that going in, that helps us work with it anyway. We can jump to things much faster than they probably could have because we have a background in so many other things. All right, so we know we've got a lot of modern biases that we have to try to find a way to set off to the side. We can't escape them, but we have to set them off to the side and try to imagine ourselves back in their time, living their life. We're going to see this material in a different way. We're going to spend more time with it. I am also going to suggest that as I got into it and interpreted it, I was thinking at some point along the way, there are things I need to learn in here about how to be, about how to become, about ways to shift the way that the kind of person I am or something like that. And as I begin to interpret more and more, and as I begin to become, find myself more into the material, I shifted from I've got to grow into something to, we are already this person. This is already us. We're already this way. We just don't know it. We're not aware of it. That higher being is there operating all the time. I don't have to learn how to do it. I just have to be aware of what it is and then begin to learn how to exist within it. And so that is what we're going to do here. I think we can all get there, and it's a state of being. But this is, how do we practice getting there? Another thing that's important to understand is that if we come about in a mental process, what does that take? Think of learning an activity, a sports, a hobby, driving, something like that at first it's very difficult, but at some point you're doing it without even thinking about it. You have become so good at it. But what did it take? It took application, time, practice, what happens literally is that our brain is continuing to grow neural pathways and strengthen them and bring in other things that help us perform in that area. However, what we don't know is that that's exactly how our brain works all the time, whether we are doing it intentionally or not. At the same time we're being abused, we're being hurt, we're sitting for hours crying, hurting, nurturing this pain and feeling it, we are also wiring for that experience. So when we want to change, we have to know that these are not, oh, I just have to change my mind, I'm going to flip a switch. We have brain wiring. There's habits we have, and you might go, I've got this completely, I'm done. I'm not going to do that anymore. And 3 or 4 days into it, you're like, maybe one more time. We still have this conflict going on. There's things in place that we don't want there, and there's new things in place that are going to take time to get there. So when we're working with practicing getting to the higher being, we have to know that as well. It takes practice, it takes time. So what can we do? Is there a meditation practice? One thing I was thinking of is making a video that was just like a meditation, kind of a guided thing. But it's just a way of trying to look at life from a detached perspective. I don't know. I'll see how that goes. I'm stepping into new territory here. Again, I employ help, ideas or whatnot. Okay. How do we proceed here then? What am I thinking of? This is all a mental process, and we're gonna take control over it, which means we have to very specifically understand all the parts, what they are, where they come from, and what they're doing. Once we know what they are, they cease to be monsters. They're mechanisms that we can manipulate through awareness and understanding. It's a mental process. That's where we're going to go. Right now, you're using your consciousness. You're taking things in. We are attaching to the world right now. I'm engaging you in something that I believe that I'm finding, and you are listening and allowing and processing what I'm saying and storing it away in some manner. So that is what is happening right now. The conscious is in its normal mode. Now, this is a positive thing. This could be a negative thing. The conscious at this point in time is processing. What we're going to do right now is stop for a moment, and I'm going to just take a pause, and I'm going to ask you to think back about something in your life that is really, you don't have it dealt with. You don't want to talk to anybody about it. It's something that you feel shame or pain over. I don't want you to do anything except just stop and ponder it for a moment. And at the moment that you ponder it, it might already be emerging right now. Allow the emotional experience, keep it to yourself, but allow the emotional experience to come up and feel what that emotion is. Go ahead right now and think of something. Okay, yeah, let it go. Come back. What you just experienced right there is the memory, the memory and the stored emotional state of that memory, and that is what is in the background that's going to be acting out. That and a bunch like it. When I was editing this, I realized I needed to say something better. I said what is stored is the memory and the emotion. The emotion is actually not what is stored. The emotion is a downstream byproduct of something different. And that's important to know because that's how we heal. If you feel bad about something, you don't go change the emotion. There's something else that happens. The emotion is the result of something. So you can't change the result. We have to find the actual seed. So the event happened and there's a perception. And what we have to do is that perception is what is stored. It's shame or it's some sort of a feeling. But when it is recalled, it'll activate the glands and make you feel that way again. The shame, all of that comes back. The anger, the hatred, whatever. This is our own. Look at your own life and what is it that comes out that I need to get a hold of? That's it right there. It's bad stuff that causes hurt to our lives and the lives of others. At any rate, it's important to know that the emotion then is really being recreated based on the perception, and that if we change the perception by understanding certain things, that'll get into the healing process. That's what the healing actually is changing that perception. Once that perception changes, changes, then the rest of it changes. The emotions and all of that, they change automatically. Those are results. So we use the emotions to find the problems. We don't use the emotions to fix the problems. We use the emotions to measure the quality of our past. Now, I'm going to ask you to pause again, and I'm going to ask you to imagine planet Earth from the moon or from outer space someplace. And you're completely warm and safe. This is just a mental space to be. That we're looking at things from way out in space, and we're no longer even human. We're just this big, energy awareness out here that is looking at things from a distance. Go there for a moment. Okay, that right there might take more time than the few seconds I've given on the video. You might have to do that later on your own. Just look for that opportunity where you become aware of the fact that you are, I am detached from things. And then go ahead and embrace that and try to play with what it takes for you to get there mentally in your own mind. Do you see how that one feels emotionally detached? That's the higher being right there. So right here, we've just identified the consciousness, the memories that are coming out from the subconscious, and the higher being, and each one of them feeling different if we can get into that. If you were able to get into that, I know there's people that say, I didn't experience, I never did feel disconnected that you're talking about. And that could be the case. There could be so much hurt in a person that it's just super hard to get there. You might experience something a lot more benign. It's harder to spot it. A part of you that, as you're hurting throughout the day, suffering, every once in a while, this little voice coming in and saying, if you would just deal with this, it would be okay. But you get rid of it really quickly. That's it right there. That might be the only inkling you get. It depends where we are on the path. What we want to do, though, is nurture that experience that is the detached one. That right there is what we want to do, to develop some sort of a mental process to practice living from and getting to this place. Well, let's just say getting to this place right now. We're living from it. It's there all the time. It's in the background. But life experiences are in between that part of us and the physical manifestation of our actual life experiences. I mean, of our our current life experiences. The past life experiences are in the way, causing more of the same cyclical issues. Whatever is up here is the flow we're on. So what we want to do is get rid of that massive stuff. But in order to do it, we have to be able to have this higher being very well established so that we can comfortably go there and exist there, despite the fact that we have a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, that we can quick jump out to this place and go, I'm on safe. I'm on base over here. Stop feeling, let's take a look at things. We have to be able to develop that part of our mental capacity so that we can detach. I think sometimes it's hard for people to envision even why, what am I doing? Why am I even trying this? And there's a point where in the healing process, we are a hurt individual. We've had something happen. This is in another video. I'll bring it up again here just to make sure that it stays fresh, or it's a good example right now. It has to do with my childhood and an experience I had with my brother's death, wintertime, a Sunday school situation where, my brother had just committed suicide. He hung himself. He wanted to go to heaven. We were little kids. We were very close. We were in an abusive home, and he's abandoned me. And I'm a 10-year-old in Sunday school, gets sent down to his Sunday school class to bring a note to his teacher. They have a surprise for me. They want me to feel better, but they sing me happy birthday. I'm just devastated. Nobody's talked to me. I don't even know what's going on. I have no answers. I lost my brother. And I found him in the woods. I cut him down. I started crying because it just felt instantly like pity. All I wanted was to understand about Larry, and here they are trying to. There's a birthday cake there and some games to play with, and I was so angry about that. I ended up being hurt by that because that never got dealt with either. What happens is these become memories. that left unacknowledged. We may later go, yeah, I'm okay about life. I worked through all that stuff. Yet something is still going on right there. And God, something is emerging from that. It's a memory that isn't resolved. So what you do is use the higher being in a case like that. Then you come in and you look at things, and the higher being has the capacity to step out of my little self, my consciousness, and my physical experience, and look at the bigger picture and go, okay, here's what's going on. It's a tragedy, no doubt about it. It happened. However, what's going on in this situation? You got a teacher who is devastated. He lost one of his kids to a tragedy. He's trying to teach his other kids. His little brother comes in and your heart goes out to him. You're trying to do your best. The kid cries. You begin to see from everybody else's perspective what is going on. And in doing so, and in understanding that, it begins to diffuse your own situation. You realize nobody knows what to do. Man, they care about you. They have no idea. This is all they can think of. And they think it's a good idea because they don't have your feelings. They can't experience what you're experiencing. So and then the memory is still there, but the power of it dissipates. It goes away. So in using the higher being, sometimes what I'm literally doing is going through that memory and crying, but instead of ignoring it or going, I don't like it, I'm putting it away, my higher being is residing there with me at the same time in my consciousness, saying, yeah, let it come out. Don't hold it back. Let it come out, see it, feel it, experience it. This is the way it is living within you, residing within you, and this very energy right here, which is existing, right in the cosmos, right in humanity, right in our cumulative psyche right here, to continue to have similar experiences, even if we try to get out of it sometimes, finding ourselves getting looped back in. We have to change the way that feeling is, that emotional feeling is. Okay, so that's what the higher being, and that's not all, but the higher being is how you would heal. That is an example of how I've used it, where it was in charge of it. The conscious can experience all of these at once. However, in this case, understanding that mentally, and being prepared for that, and then examining that and knowing that it's coming out and it's hurting and it doesn't feel good. But there's another part of you that's going, yeah, I know that. But you know what? If you don't let it come out, it's not going to fix. Let it come out. Let it come out. There's a part of you that is helping you heal. That's where we need to the importance in developing the higher being is then, because the higher being exists in a plane high enough above the physical that it doesn't feel, if you get there properly, that it doesn't have the emotional connection to the physical pain. So, how do we get there? Okay, now for me, at some point, I realized this is, I'll just cut to the chase again. This is observing from on high. This is God observing from up above, looking from a higher place, standing on higher ground. Anyway, the detached perspective, the observer, the watcher, the something that is outside of the physical experience. And that is a place that we can just go to in a couple of ways. Again, I found myself, as I'm learning about it, realizing that I had been naturally doing this. I've talked before about climbing in the past and going on some common local climbs that had, there were some hairy spots on a few of them, some knife ridges that had high exposure, and kind of made it a struggle for many people to make it across those pieces right there. I would make it across, but I can assure you it scared the hell out of me to do it. It was high exposure, and it was like, oh my God, you have to focus and keep it together. But one thing I learned quickly was that if I was stopped living my own experience and I saw somebody else who was more terrified than me, I would help them across. And as soon as I began to engage with them and help them, I would actually envision us from a higher perspective, like I'm looking down at myself helping this person, and my fears would go away. I would not experience anything except the detached at that moment. And I realized that was something at some point that I was up there often enough. I did that. And places called Chicken Out Ridge, if you ever want to Google and see what that might look like. Places like that where I found that I had naturally just been doing that because it seemed like it helped me see it from a better perspective than down stuck right into it. And that's exactly what we're doing. I think throughout the day, if we're doing things like that, if you're riding in transit, buses, trains, anything, traveling, can you see yourself from up above? Can you imagine it from outside? We have enough photos of space and things like that that we've seen and we've got them in our memories that we can pull up all kinds of images that help us get into an imaginary state where we are out in space, we're looking at things from a distance, that we're not ourselves, that we are a different being looking down, looking at things, looking across maybe, we can get anywhere. You can go down underneath and look up and see what's going on. It's just an imagination place that if you're there successfully, you're disconnected from things. You're the observer. So do that maybe while you're meditating. Lay down and envision seeing things from a distance. Throughout the day as you're doing things. I think this is an activity. I think you could be driving in traffic and do this. It doesn't take away what is wired in there. Okay, the yardstick. If you want to know, and this is only something you can do for yourself, you have to know this in your own mind. There's on this path right here, it's a personal inner path. So it only works if an individual takes it on their own. The way you know if you've made it, if you are from the observer, if you are from the higher being, is during that time that you are existing from that spot, you don't have the emotional attachment to your life experiences. If you can look at yourself from a distance or get outside yourself far enough away, maybe you don't even look at yourself. You look at Earth from so far away that life down there just looks like little mold on an orange or something. It's too far away. We've detached from the physical experiences. Can you get there to a point where you no longer feel it? If you can get there, then that's it. This is the part that has to be a logical. We understand what's going on. We understand that emotions and feelings are going to become an incredibly huge impediment to the success of an individual's capacity to self-heal. The more afraid they are of it hurting, the harder it's going to be for them. The more courageous they are and have the capacity to get over it, the easier it will be for them. And I don't mean get over it in the sense of let it go, just forget about it. I mean get over it in the sense of address it, work with it, emerge it, heal it, engage with it. But those are experiential things. Those are just what we have to experience on our own. When I started, I remember struggling with the first thing or two because it was like so scary. But after seeing the success, I couldn't wait for more stuff to emerge. It's like, oh my God, let me have more. I had so much stuff from my past, and it still works through today. Until it never stops. Okay. I guess that's it that I can think of. Practice looking at yourself from a distance. Practice looking at other people. Practice going to somebody else's experience and seeing them and where they are and having a conversation with them. I don't know. No, observing from a distance. Whatever it is, keep observing whether or not you are emotionally detached from it. Practice that emotional detachment. Initially, what has to happen is we're going to start other ideas then on how to actually do the healing is being able to, we can't do it without the development of this part of our awareness that is going to be sitting inside. Our conscious is going to invite it in when we're healing and let it be the one. Instead of ignoring it and allowing the pain to win, we're going to go, okay, this time the logic is going to take over and say, pain, you don't get to win. But that all has to happen in the conscious mind. And that detachment The emotional detachment has to be there. That's what we practice. Observing from a distance. Observing without the feelings of it. Move back far away. Then maybe you can practice moving a little closer and go, okay, I'm starting to attach again. Sit there for a little bit. Look at a few things. Let it experience. And then back away from it. Give it a day or two. Go do it again. Get a little closer. You should find that there's a diminishment in it. Our brains are wiring. It takes time. Things are built in and we're trying to change and become aware of them. And think about this again. And boy, especially if you've ever been camping or someplace remote or something like that, think about that. Think that if something like that isolation you had for a short period of time, out of cell range and, minimal resources was your entire lifetime. You and the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people around you. What are they doing? Yeah. They're healing, that they have access to this. This is, the highest detail of what I have to teach comes from Genesis. Okay, yeah, any ideas? Was that okay? This video is kind of weird, huh? I was just thinking of a guided meditation thing, where you maybe put on some spaceship sound ambience in the background, just some sort of a gray noise. And then just talk about observing, things from a distance, or I don't know. Everybody has to do it on their own, ultimately. I think at some point that's the real trick of it. Throughout your own day at various times, you just go do that. And you probably, if you're the right kind of person, would go, you know what? I already do that. That's what happened to me. When I realized what they were doing, it was like, oh yeah, you know what? I already do that. I just wasn't aware if that's what I was doing. And I wasn't allowing the right parts to win. I wasn't ready to heal. The fear won out. Now we develop the higher being so that we can go after the fear and not let it win out. These were correlations that I made, for example, that realizing that being from that detached perspective on the ridge with somebody allowed me to get around the fear. That exact same mental process was the one being used, that this is still fear. We're actually simple in that area. The fear is for a different reason, but it feels exactly the same. Scary. Like I'm going to fall off the edge. The way our body gives us fear is one way, even if they're different. Oh, anyway, okay, so it works the same way, turning inward as far as or outward. That in order for me to get past the fear that I had inside, again, use the higher being to do that, looking at it from a detached perspective. It works the same way inside as it does out. As within, so without. Follow it in. This gets into the healing process, but what is the fear when we've got some shame or something inside? The fear is not ultimately that you are going to fall to your death, but that it will still feel the same. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? However, it is something that we have self-imposed psychologically. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Take your situation and imagine from your higher being that someone different is coming and telling you that story, or that you're listening to yourself tell your story to the higher being, and that this person, as they're talking to you, they're coming to you growing, and they've got heartfelt. They just want things resolved. How would you handle it for them if they said, "Oh my God, I am growing. I came from the most screwed up place. I've done stupid things. I wish I didn't." How would you feel about them if they're asking forgiveness? Love to hear your thoughts or comments. That's it for this video. I can't think of anything else. It's just off the wall. I got COVID. I'm recovering, kind of on the mend. I don't feel very much into the material right now, so it's actually been a good break. So All right. Love one another. I'll see you in the next video.